First of all, I've been commanded to inform everyone and remind you that the Alabama Folklife Association, of which I am a member, presents their annual event, their annual conference. It's going to be in Bessemer this year. In Harmony is the title, a Gospel Quartet Tradition, Teaching, and Training, Saturday, November 5th. That's not the same day as the LSU-Alabama game, by the way. Saturday, November 5th, 1 p.m. to 7 at the Discovery, Alabama, at the Water Park Place in Bessemer. Their performance is by the Pillars, the Birmingham Sunlights, and our speaker today, Doug Seroff, will also be giving another speech and lecture on the Birmingham Quartet tradition. And you can get more information by going to the Alabama Folklife Association webpage, alabamafolklife.org, or you can snag me after the program and I can fill you in. Our speaker today has been researching and writing about the gospel music of Alabama for over 30 years. Doug Seroff's work documenting the Jefferson County quartet tradition not only has brought this amazing tradition to light outside the gospel community, but it's inspired and influenced subsequent researchers to investigate and document the gospel singing tradition in other areas of the U.S. Mr. Seroff has since continued to research the early history of African American music in the U.S., resulting in the publication of 2 groundbreaking books co-authored with Lynn Abbott, Ragged But Right and Out of Sight, The Rise of African American Popular Music. Next year we will see the publication of Mr. Abbott and Mr. Seroff's new book, To Do This, You Must Know How, that includes a chapter on the Birmingham quartet tradition and more specifically the quartet trainer phenomenon in Jefferson County, as well as a reissue of the landmark Birmingham Quartet Anthology LP as a 3-CD set from Case Quarter Records. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Doug Seroff.
Thank you very much, Kevin. It was a nice introduction. I want to thank the audience for coming out, and especially I want to thank Sherry Hamill and Kevin Nutt for inviting me here. And I'm happy to share the platform with the Four Eagles Gospel Singers of Birmingham. They're great representatives of the Jefferson County, Alabama Gospel Quartet singing tradition. On the 3rd Sunday in November at the Bessemer City Auditorium, the Four Eagles will celebrate their 73rd anniversary of singing activity. Throughout that long history, the Four Eagles have stayed on the traditional side. They are an a cappella quartet with a bass singer. Their 4-part harmony preserves a distinct musical heritage that is part of the spirit and history of their local community. The Four Eagles are the oldest black vocal quartet still active in Jefferson County. They were organized in 1938 in Birmingham by Reverend Julius Wilson. And they held their first program in Decatur, which was Reverend Wilson's birthplace. He bought each member a WPA Eagle badge and pinned it to their coat, and that was how the quartet was named the Four Eagles. This is the earliest photo available of the Four Eagle Gospel Singers. It dates from the late 1940s. On the far right, in the back row, is Joe Watson, who joined the Four Eagles when he returned from service after World War II. And he remained a great lead singer for the Four Eagles until shortly before his death in 1996. Some of you may have had a chance to see Joe Watson sing with the Eagles. In the time available, I'd like to discuss some aspects of the Four Eagles singing career, and I'll also try to provide some historical background concerning the Jefferson County quartet tradition. One dominant theme in the tradition has been training and the importance of community-based quartet trainers. Trainers figured prominently in the outbreak of black sacred harmony singing that took place in Bessemer and Birmingham beginning shortly after World War I. By the late 1920s, it was said that there were quartets on every block in Bessemer's sprawling black working-class communities. It may be surprising to learn that this traditional community-based music training was directly connected to modes of formal music education practiced in black public schools. Dynamic music instruction and heartfelt spiritual singing took place at Birmingham's first black high school, Industrial High School, later renamed Parker High. Under the guidance of the school's principal, Harold Parker, and vocal music instructors Malachi Wilkerson and his wife, Julia May Kennedy Wilkerson, thousands of young people received foundational training in harmony singing, and many more non-students were touched by community sings held in the Industrial High's spacious auditorium. Incidentally, spiritual singing and music training at Industrial High School is the subject of an article Lynn Abbott and I wrote for Tributaries magazine, the journal of the Alabama Folklife Association, in 2010, titled Roots of Birmingham's Gospel Quartet Training Culture, Spiritual Singing at Industrial High School. Industrial High's greatest success story in the gospel quartet field was Charles Bridges. Bridges was born in 1901 in Pratt City, a suburb of Birmingham. Bridges said he received his early musical training from Julia and Malachi Wilkerson in high school. As a young man, Bridges worked as a coal miner and in a dry cleaning establishment. Early in the 1920s, he sang with a quartet known as the Dolomite Jubilee Singers. And in 1925, Bridges inaugurated a golden age of gospel quartet singing when he drew the bass singer Ed Sherrill out of a quartet known as the Rolling Mill Four. And with baritone Dave Osbrooks and tenor Lot Key, they organized the Birmingham Jubilee Singers. What you're looking at is a photograph of Charles Bridges that was taken in his Chicago apartment in 1979. Bridges died in 1989. The Birmingham Jubilees made the first recordings by any African-American quartet from Jefferson County in Atlanta in the spring of 1926. The following year, they were brought to New York for more recording, and there they joined the cast of the Broadway show Africana, starring Ethel Waters, and began 2 years of touring on both white and black vaudeville circuits, appearing in Chicago and New York with several big theatrical productions. Although they arrived in New York City with only their quartet singing skills, the Birmingham Jubilee Singers, former mill workers and miners, sustained themselves for 2 full years and appeared on Broadway alongside national stage stars. Between the years 1926 and 1930, they recorded nearly 60 titles for Vocalion and Columbia Records. In order for you to get an idea of what they sound like, I'd like to play a portion of one of their 1926 recordings. The title is He Took My Sins Away. Wow. Kevin.
I'm on both night and day. My Lord heard me mourning. He took my sins away. When I was a sinner, I sinned both night and day. My Lord seen me sinning. He took my sins away. Let me hear you moan. Let's moan, children, moan. Took my sins away.
Bridges and the Birmingham Jubilees returned to Jefferson County in 1929 and once again took up training local quartet groups. As a result of this training, commercial recordings made during the following decades by Jefferson County quartets preserve a distinctive Birmingham sound, which echoes the Birmingham Jubilee singers' deep-pitched harmony, broad, round tones, and practiced enunciation. Perhaps Bridges' most notable protege was L.Z. Manley. Manley sang and recorded with the Heavenly Gospel Singers of Birmingham, and this is a picture of the Heavenly Gospel Singers, and Manley is second from the left. They were organized in the 1930s, but he first came under Bridges' training and influence years earlier as a boy tenor with the Dolomite Jubilee Singers. Manley eventually developed a rich baritone lead voice that might easily have been mistaken for Charles Bridges. L.Z. Manley, in turn, trained the Four Eagles bass singer and musical director, the late Freeman Farris. Farris had replaced the original bass singer, Mr. Walter Fan. Farris sang with the Four Eagles for 26 years until shortly before his death on November 3rd, 1988. Oliver McWilliams, the current bass singer of the Four Eagles, replaced Farris. Freeman Farris said that L.Z. Manley was, quote, a fine fellow and a good singer and well equipped to arrange songs. In other words, he'd fix them his way. He would try to train us to make chords that other groups weren't making. I asked Brother Farris if Charles Bridges had also given him training or instruction, and Farris explained, quote, well, he didn't necessarily train my group, but he was training the Heavenly Gospel Singers. And L.Z. Manley, in turn, from the Heavenly Gospel Singers, got my group on the road. Practically everybody that was singing around here at that time, Bridges had something to do with one way or the other. That was the daddy of the town, Charles Bridges. That was what Freeman Farris said about Charles Bridges. Now, we'll see some photos of the Four Eagles. And I just want to identify the members. This was taken in 1981 at the Smithsonian Institution. And that's John Lawrence, still with the group, and Elorgia Coleman, and L.T. Smoot, and that's Joe Watson, and that is Freeman Farris. I first met the Four Eagles on their 39th anniversary in November 1977 at Bessemer City Auditorium. I first had a chance to work with them at the October 1980 Jefferson County Quartet reunion. I was with them again in 1981 when they went to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. to sing a Black American quartet tradition concert and colloquium. And that is what this program, that's what this program is from, the Smithsonian event in 1981. The strong impression the Eagles made led to their being invited back to Washington the following year for the National Folk Festival. In 1983, the Eagles were prominently featured in a television documentary made for British Channel 4 titled On the Battlefield, Gospel Quartets in Bessemer, Alabama, which was aired throughout Europe, Japan, and Australia. A few years later, the Four Eagles were the subject of a National Public Radio documentary by celebrated producer David Isay. In 1990, the Eagles appeared on a program at the Bessemer Civic Center titled Home of the Heroes, along with the South African vocal group Ladysmith Black Mambazo. That concert was recorded and broadcast internationally on the Afropop radio show. During the 1980s and 1990s, the Eagles appeared regularly at Birmingham's city stages and other festivals and events across the state, including the Alabama Folklife Festival in Montgomery. Looking further back into their history, the Four Eagles began weekly live gospel radio broadcasts in 1941, and they were on the air continuously for more than 50 years, first over WVOK and later on station WENN, where they continued until 1996 when the station was sold. Their program was broadcast live at 6:15 a.m. I was present when some of the singers came out to the radio station at that early morning hour, still in their work clothes from the night before. And here I'll show some of the, throughout this period, the Eagles promoted their own anniversary programs and other gospel concerts in Bessemer, churches and auditoriums. And I thought it would be worthwhile to have a look at some of the printed programs from the Four Eagles anniversaries over the years. By the 1980s, unaccompanied black male quartets had virtually vanished from the national gospel music landscape. But gospel programs in Bessemer sometimes featured 3 or 4 of these groups. The list included the Four Eagles, John Alexander's Sterling Jubilee Singers, Henry Holston's Sterling Jubilee Singers, John Griffin's Gospel Southern Airs, the Shelby County Big Four, Delta Airs, and Birmingham Sunlights. And I also should mention Dodd and the Silver Voices and Lee Bell Johnson and the Good Samaritans, outstanding local female gospel groups who sang unaccompanied harmony, but not in the quartet style. Also, the Gospel Harmonettes of Demopolis and the Poole Brothers of Greensboro often came up to Bessemer to sing on these programs. None of these groups had ever taken singing for their full-time profession, but in the 1980s and 1990s, they were arguably the best traditional gospel singers in the U.S. And through the good work of Joey Brackner, the state folklorist, Alabama state folklorist, and Joyce Cawthon, who at that time was the president of the Alabama Folklife Association, and others, nearly all of the groups that were mentioned were seen and heard at music festivals and public arts events in the state of Alabama and beyond. Currently, the senior member of the Four Eagles is lead singer and manager John Lawrence. He joined the quartet in 1963 when he was 19 years old. Brother Lawrence's spirit, energy, and devotion has held the Four Eagles together. In order to keep the quartet active, Brother Lawrence had the difficult task of finding singers to replace departed veterans. It requires lots of training and rehearsal to sing with the Four Eagles. John Lawrence's emotional energy is balanced by the group's traditional emphasis on close harmony singing, and that balance describes the Four Eagles' distinctive Birmingham sound in the year 2011. Bass singer Oliver McWilliams, better known as Mac, filled a great gap when he joined the Eagles in 1989, replacing the veteran bass singer Freeman Farris after his unexpected death. Mac is a native of Jefferson County. His father was also a bass singer. Mac moved to New York City, where he sometimes sang with the great Jimmy Jones and his group, the Sensationals. Following 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, Mac moved back to Alabama in 1973. He sang with Henry Holston's Sterling Jubilee Singers before joining the Four Eagles. John Petty sings baritone and lead for the Four Eagles. He joined the quartet in 1989 from the Brownsville Cairo Community Male Chorus. William Crawford and Demetrius Williams, Demetrius Williams is unable to be with us this afternoon, but he's still a member of the group. They joined more recently and have helped the group uphold their high standards and reputation. The men who represent the future of this proud old club, the Four Eagle Gospel Singers, deserve credit for their perseverance as well as their commitment to maintaining the quality of their harmony singing. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will enjoy the Four Eagle Gospel Singers. Thank you very much. Oh, nice.
be somewhere that I can see him face to face. Oh, there must be a mansion way up in the sky. There must be a heaven somewhere. Oh, yes, there must be a sea. No, there must be a place. Oh, there must be somewhere that I see him face to face. Oh, there must be a mansion way up in the sky. There must be a heaven somewhere. Oh, yeah. But I've been told that the door's still closed and the gate's still gold. Well, I think I get to heaven, gonna say, hey, shouting. I'll be nobody there to join me. We're gonna lift up David in the heat of the day. Tune up my harp and begin to play. La 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 la. There must be a heaven somewhere. Oh, yeah.
Right.
We just have to say, give it on to God for our being here this afternoon, who's the head of our life. And we just want to take time out to thank Sherry for bringing the Four Eagles to Montgomery, Alabama. My home is just a little ways down in Lowndes County down there. That's where I was born and bred, right down there in Lowndes County. Now, but we going to say that these are, we don't have time to give you all of the names, but these are the Four Eagles Gospel Singers. And we like to say about Brother Mac, today is his birthday. He is 66 years old. And we always say he's calling up with me now, but in December I'll be 67. So we're going to do some old songs. There's some songs we hope and trust that you will enjoy. We're going to go way back and do songs now. That when I first started with the Four Eagles Gospel Sing, you probably have heard an old song that says these words. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Oh, I become overjoyed and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. Oh, babe of an angel, they was coming after me. Coming for to carry me home. Oh, if you become get there before I do. Coming for to carry me home. Tell my friend I'm coming on. Brother Moses smoked the water, and the children all passed over. Well, Brother Moses smoked the water, and the children all passed over. Brother Moses smoked the water, and the sea gave away. Well, Brother Moses smoked the water, and the children all passed over. Brother Moses smoked the water, and the sea gave away. Well, now, Father, ain't you glad to bless that sinful army? Father, ain't you glad that the sea gave away? Well, Brother Moses spoke the water, and the children all passed over. Brother Moses spoke the water, and the sea gave away. Well, now, Mother, ain't you glad to bless that sinful army? Mother, ain't you glad that the sea gave away? Well, Brother Moses spoke the water, and the children all passed over. Brother Moses spoke the water, and the sea gave away. Well, now, brother, ain't you glad to bless that sinful army? Brother, ain't you glad that the sea? Well, Brother Moses spoke the water, and the children all passed over. Brother Moses spoke the water, and the sea gave away. Well, now, sister, ain't you glad to bless that sinful army? Sister, ain't you glad that the sea gave away? Well, Brother Moses spoke the water, and the children all passed over. Brother Moses spoke the water, and the sea gave away. And the sea gave away.
Good. Crawford at Diane singing tenor, he's doing a good job.
And the sea gave away. We're going to do another song we hope and trust that you will enjoy. This is an old song that Jesus is all this world to me. Jesus is all this world to me. My life, my joy, my all and all. He's my strength from day to day. Without him, I would fall. saw fit to leave me back here for a little while longer. But I realized that one day this old body got to lay down. Go home to live with Jesus. And that's where I want to go. When I leave this here world, I want to see Jesus. I want to see the one that who's home, bled, and died. Out on Mount Calvary just for a poor wretch like me. I want to be there with him one day, where I want to spend eternity. Sinner man, say, you better run, because it won't be long that he's coming back. Well, you better run. Somebody calling me, you better run. Somebody calling me, you better run. Somebody calling me, I feel like my time ain't long, long, long. Well, you better run. Somebody calling me, now you better run. Somebody calling me, you better run. Somebody calling me, I feel like my time ain't long, long, long. Well, you better run. Hey, you better run. Somebody calling me, you better run. Somebody calling me, I feel like my time ain't long, long, long. Well, it was early in the morning and the trumpet don't sound well. Oh, Jesus Christ is gonna rise. Brother, you ain't got good religion. Well, brother, hell, you open up your eyes. You better run, you better run, you better run. You better run, see Jesus. You better run, you better run. You gotta try, the chili jail, 'cause I know my time ain't long. Sinner man, you better run. We're going to do another old song here. When folks around you prosper,
Oh, yeah.
don't worry about it. Because eyes have not seen and ears have not heard what the Lord has in store for you. When folks around you prosper, even though they are wrong, why should I feel discouraged?
radio theme song.
Eyes have not seen and
Brother Crawford wants some water?
ears have not heard
Yeah.
what the Lord has in store for you. We gonna have Brother Bill at this time
Right.
to come and give us a song at this time.
Good evening. Good afternoon. I deal with men with Four Eagles. Proudly to say they're associated with one of the best, greatest, oldest. Little song say, ain't no use, nobody trying to turn me around.
All right.
Ain't no use, nobody trying to turn me around. No, no, ain't no use, nobody trying to turn me around. No, no, because my mind is made up and my soul is heavily bound. Ain't no use. Yeah, nobody trying to turn me around. No, no, there ain't no use. Nobody trying to turn me around. No, no, there ain't no use. Nobody trying to turn me around. No, no, because my mind is made up. Yeah, my soul is heavily bound. There ain't no use. Yeah, nobody trying to turn me around. No, no. Now I've been tempted and I've been tried ever since I've been born. Yeah, yes. I'm so tired and I'm so weak. Lord, Lord. Yeah, yes. I've been up, yeah, so many times. Yes, sir. I've been down, down, down. There ain't no use. Yeah, nobody trying to turn me around. No, no. Now you can't turn me around. Oh, no, you can't turn me around. I won't let my father can't turn me around. Turn me around, can't turn me around. No, my mother can't turn me around. Can't turn me around, can't turn me around. Woke me early this morning, can't turn me around. Can't turn me around, can't turn me around. There ain't no use, yeah, nobody trying to turn me around. No, no.
All right. Good one.
Now we have time for questions. Would you like to stand or would you prefer to sit? We can bring the chair back.
You can bring the table out.
You can stand?
All right.
If you have a question, please raise your hand and we will give you the microphone to speak into because we do have others that are in the other auditorium that would like to hear your question. Do we have a question? Which one was singing bass? I thought it was him.
This question is for Doug or any of the Eagles that want to respond. Can y'all hear me? Could you talk a little bit about, when Doug was talking about some of the other quartets, there were many names that were associated with the iron and steel industry in Birmingham. And would y'all say something about were most quartet singers employed or were employed in those industries, and also maybe the relationship
Yes, one of the bass singers that sung with the Four Eagles was Walter Fan. He was worked at U.S. Steel, and along with Solomon William and the Inslee Jubilee.
Right.
That's right, Inslee Jubilee. It was 3 or 4 of those guys. They used to call it Barbershop Quartet back in that time. They worked it at U.S. Steel. I believe and some of the Sterling Jubilees of Bessemer sung with worked it at U.S. Steel, but during that period of time.
I might have a little something to add there. Thank you, John. The Sterling Jubilees were actually formed in the pipe shop, the U.S. Steel pipe shop in Bessemer. And they sang at an organizing rally of the Steelworkers Union back, in 1940, and got quite a lot of press for it. And then for a while they were known as the CIO Singers, and they sang a weekly radio show under that name, CIO Singers. And the union sponsored them for quite a while. But afterwards they changed the name back to the Sterling Jubilee Singers. But quite a number of groups in Jefferson County were associated with the steel industry or in the mining profession. And this goes all the way back to the very first quartet in Bessemer was the Foster Singers, R.C. Foster, and the Foster Singers. And Foster worked in Woodard's mine, Woodard's old mine. That's where that group was organized. So there has been a direct connection and an extensive interrelationship between the workplace and this kind of singing.
We have a question.
Is this on?
Yes, speaking to
Okay.
Could you talk about the education program that you have to promote gospel singing in the state, and whether this involves churches, schools? How are you reaching out to bring younger people into this kind of activity so that it will be perpetuated? Gospel singing is certainly a part of the heritage of this state, and it needs to be kept alive. So could you talk about your education program?
Well, is there anything you want to say? Well, I guess I'll try to answer. I know there's been quite a number of specific individual programs in churches and especially in schools in Jefferson County. Some of it supported by the Folklife Association, and there are ongoing programs, but there's no overarching effort. And of course, gospel singing in general is not in any kind of danger of going out of style. There's many gospel groups active, in fact, all over the country. But what this group represents is a specific style of gospel singing, a cappella, unaccompanied, 4-part harmony singing. And this is the style of singing that's been endangered in recent years. There was a time not so long ago when groups felt somewhat embarrassed to come out on a stage without instruments because the audiences had become so used to seeing groups with accompaniment. And this group and others like them that I mentioned earlier have kind of soldiered through that period to a time when people are appreciating this style of music again. But the perpetuation of it is a difficult issue and a difficult question because, as I started to describe it, a lot of it was based around trainers who had many years of singing activity and experience. And a lot of those old men are not with us anymore. And so the perpetuation of this style of singing is somewhat questionable, as much as we'd like to think otherwise. And that's one of the reasons why this group is so precious and why we have them here today. So that's the best answer I can give you.
Test, test. Test, test.
Sir, do you have handout, hardback, paperback of the literature that you read today on the historical background of the singer that you could purchase, or it would be mailed to you or circulated to you today, sir?
Well, I don't have anything with me today. A colleague and I have completed a book on gospel quartet singing, and it's scheduled for publication late next year. I have published a number of brochures and journal articles and such as that, and if you'd like to give me your address later on, I'll be glad to send you something. Appreciate your interest. Any other questions?
I'm originally from Georgia, but I have some friends who introduced me to singing of the notes.
Note singing.
And you just sing the notes, do you do any of that, singing of the notes? You just sing.
Shape note.
You sing the notes, you don't sing the words, you just sing the notes. And Alabama knows this, but I don't use it.
Yeah.
Do you remember during the city stages they had a group called the Sacred Harp Singers?
Sure. There are groups in Alabama and Georgia that specialize in shape note singing. They've appeared on festivals, but that tradition is not directly related to Jefferson County's quartet heritage. There wasn't a strong tradition of shape note singing in Jefferson County, as there was elsewhere in the South.
Y'all go all over the state and perform, or are you strictly just around?
We go all over.
That's wonderful. Wonderful group of people. You ready?
Would you explain the relationship between the gospel singing that you do and the church music? In other words, are they integrally related, or do they evolve separately?
There you go, John.
They are all related with church music and quartet singing. When you come to church music, it's for, well, let's say a congregation is church music. But then you break it down into 3 or 4 parts singing as quartet singing. Then most of the time that quartet mostly do traveling where church just be at church. On Sundays just sing at church. But for myself, I like to go all over to sing. I like to sing to the world. I like to tell them about Jesus.
Do we have one more question? Anyone?
Could we have an encore?
Yeah, they just want you to sing another song.
Oh, okay. We're going to do another song, I hope it's a little song that I'm on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Working for the Lord. Well, you know that I'm on the battlefield, working for the Lord, working for the Lord. Lord, I'm on the battlefield, working for the Lord, working for the Lord. You know that I promised him that I would serve him till I on and on the battlefield. Yes, I'm on and on the battlefield. Working for the Lord, working for the Lord.
He's going to close up the program.
Working for Jesus.
He's going to close up the program. Where's Sherry?
Oh, I've been working for a long time.
Close it up. He's going to close it up.
And I haven't got tired yet. I'm going to wait until my day is done. Till Jesus called me home, I'm going to wait for him.
All right.
For the Lord.
All right, John.
We have some of our recordings with us today, so if you would like to purchase one, we'll let you have them today. We'll have them for $10, but we're going to put them on sale for $8.
All right, John. Good.
And we hope and trust that we sung and said something that enjoyed.
All right.
I'm happy to be with you all today.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.